right, friends, I got behind again. I got behind on my what sold videos.
Why am I not surprised?
I blame going to visit my parents in Seattle. I blame the start of the school year. So what we're gonna do is, I thought we would be able to do like the entire month of August in one video. We cannot, it's too many things, and this will be like a 3-hour long video. So instead, I'm gonna do 2 weeks of August, another 2 weeks of August in the next video, and then we'll be like closer to being caught up. So that's the game plan. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I am a part-time reseller on, let's see, the week that we're gonna talk about first, only on eBay and Poshmark, although in the next week that we'll talk about, still only eBay and Poshmark. So yeah, these were kind of still, and Whatnot. There's Whatnot as well. There's a Whatnot show in there. So eBay, Poshmark, and Whatnot apparently. I do also attempt to sell on Mercari and Depop, but they have not been good to me. They have not been good to me this summer or this fall. Is it fall yet? Fall is? What is the first day of autumn? Anyway, yeah, so I sell part-time on a bunch of different platforms. And when I am not reselling, I am a full-time high school choir teacher, and that has been kicking my butt. Like, I have been putting a lot of time and energy into my teaching job, which I love, and my students this year are honestly absolutely amazing. But let's go ahead and talk about the few things that I did sell in the first week of sales that we're going to cover, which is, I think it was actually supposed to be August 4th through the 10th, but I didn't have any sales on the 4th or 5th. So really, my first day of sales that we'll talk about is August 6th, which was a Wednesday. And on that Wednesday, on eBay, I sold this pair of Levi's 501 jeans. They're like men's jeans in a size 42 by 36. These were in like a straight fit. I did put words like normcore and casual in the listing title. They sold for $15.90, but I only had 59 cents into them from a Plato's Closet fill-a-bag sale. So my local Plato's Closet, what they've been doing, kind of their like waterfall sales system, is they will do 50% off, and then they'll take those clearance items and put them on 75% off clearance. And then usually there's like a 90% off clearance, and then it's fill-a-bag. So I usually don't go to the fill-a-bag because usually what's left over is garbage, but I decided to go this last time. It was in June. It was like June 28th. And surprisingly, there were decent things. And knowing that everything would be super cheap, I was like, well, let's see, what items are worth picking up. This one, like I said, I had 59 cents into, and these sold in 5 days. Like, I listed them really fast. I priced them pretty low so that I could move them pretty quickly. And I made a net profit of $14.41. Levi's, if I can get them for super cheap in a situation like this, or, at the bins, always a pickup for me. They're a great bread and butter, especially these like either 501 or even the 509, 550s. Like, I don't know, I can usually flip them for around 20 to 25. This one, like I said, sold for a little bit less, but that's okay. Also on the 6th on eBay, I sold this Old Navy red marled button-up cardigan for an infant girl in the size 0 to 3 months. And I did put the word holidays in the listing title as well. This was something that my daughter wore when she was an infant. She is now 12 years old. So I don't know when I listed this, but I listed it a long time ago. Like, this is probably something that I listed in my first year of reselling when she was like 5, So I don't know why I decided to list this. It's an Old Navy baby piece, but I did. It finally sold, what is it, like 6 years later maybe, for $3.55. I didn't have any money into it, so I'm saying that my net profit was $2.50, but that is why I don't really list kids' clothes anymore. I just take stuff that my kids outgrow, either to like a local kids consignment store, or I just give them away. Like, I give them to my nieces. I give my son's stuff to other like little boys at our church. It's not really worth my time to list something and 6 years later make $2.50 on that item. Also on the 8th of August on eBay, I sold this pair of new with tags J. Crew Factory Flex Slim blue chino pants in a men's size 30 by 30. These I got for $3, but I don't know where from. But you know what? I think they're from Reseller Supply Co. I think that's where they're from. But I'm just going to say I had $30 into them. I sold them for $23 and my net profit was $16.15. I also don't know how many days or months that was listed. I don't know why I have so little information on those, but I don't know. $16.15. We'll say that is my net profit. And then on the 7th of August, also no sales. So on the 8th, which was a Friday, I finally had a Poshmark sale and it was a good one. It was by the brand WoolX, which I had never come across before. I had never really heard of it, but at this estate sale that I went to in May, there was a good number of WoolX pieces. And the first day that I went to the estate sale, I didn't pick up any of the WoolX pieces because all of the items that I saw, they were like dresses. They all had holes. A lot of wool pieces, you want to check them over very carefully because you can get like moth bites and moth holes and things like that. And that's what had happened to the dresses. But this particular piece I found when I went back for the half off day, I just spent even more time going through the clothing. Like that first day that I went to the estate sale, it was so busy. There were so many people there. And it was just kind of hard to maneuver through all the people. And I just got so much stuff, even without looking through things very carefully, that I was like, I just need to go home. I've been here for so long. My arms are so tired. I just need to go home. So when I came back a couple days later for the half off sale, I found, again, just so many goodies, and this was one of them. And these leggings did not have any holes in them, but they were these olive green Duralite Piper, which I think was the style name. And they were cold weather leggings in a women's plus size 2X, and they had pockets. You guys, these sold on Poshmark for $80. I'm trying to remember how much I had them listed for. Either that was my full asking price, or I was crazy and had them listed for $100. Regardless, they sold for $80. I had $250 into them because when I went back to the estate sale a couple days later, everything was half off, including all the clothing. Everything had been priced at $5 clothing-wise, so I got this for $250. My net profit after fees and my cost of goods was $61.50. And that item sold in about 2 months, but it sold for a good amount. I was so happy with that. And actually, no, I remember, I think I had it listed for $100. Someone sent me a little bit lower of an offer. I countered at $80 and I remember freaking out and being like, oh, I should have just taken their offer. I only had $250 into these leggings, but they accepted my counter and that was an amazing sale. I have a few more WoolX pieces from this estate sale to list. I did end up picking up those dresses with the holes in them when I got all of the leftover clothing, and I just paid a bulk price for everything that was left over after the sale ended. So everything came out to 39 cents a piece when it comes to the items that I got at the end. So I was like, well, maybe people will try to patch it up, or I don't know. It just seemed like such an awesome brand. So even with the holes in it, we'll see how they do. I haven't listed those dresses yet, but make sure that you are subscribed so that when I do talk about, hopefully, the sales of those dresses, you will know because you will be subscribed. You will have hit that notification bell so that YouTube alerts you every time I upload a video. All of the good things, right? So definitely subscribe. Also on the 8th, on eBay, I sold this Chico's V-neck printed asymmetrical long sleeve top in a Chico size 0, which is a US size small. I was ecstatic that this sold because this is something that I got when we were in shelter in place during COVID. I asked one of my favorite consignment stores if I could, find a way to shop with them safely because we weren't supposed to be, out and about. And they said, how about you just go in our warehouse or our storage unit? You can basically shop by yourself and then just swing by the store when you're done and we'll just take a payment for the number of bags that you fill. And I was like, sounds great. So this was one of those items, and my clothing pieces that I purchased came out to 80 cents a piece. Now this sold for $7 because I've had it for so stinking long. I've had it since COVID, and my net profit was $3.54. So, French fry money. Someone commented on one of my videos and they're like, people our age don't eat McDonald's. And I was like, but I do. I actually do eat McDonald's, so I don't know how to respond to that. But, a lot of people were saying, oh, this is my slushy money, or this is my Starbucks money, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it is I'm getting my son and myself some French fries from McDonald's. The next thing to sell on the 8th on eBay was also from the estate sale, and this came from that bulk buy. So the leftover clothing pieces that didn't sell. I had 39 cents into each of those items. And it was this Ming Wang black tan vertical striped 3/4 sleeve knit shirt in a women's plus size 2X. If you couldn't tell, the majority of the items that I got at the estate sale were plus size pieces. And of all of the plus size pieces, like 90% of them, 95% of them were 2X. This piece sold for $20. It was also promoted and it was part of a 20% off sale that I had running because, as you could see, like this was a rough week of sales. It started off so rough, and typically if that's the case, I just try to run a sale on eBay and it usually does the trick and I'm able to move some stuff. So that was great. And my net profit was $16.84. And that sold probably within like, let's see, that sold in about a little under 3 months, which isn't too bad. And then on the 8th, on Poshmark, this was kind of sad, but also like it worked out. Let me look up one thing. Hold on.
3 hours later.
So on Poshmark, I actually sold a 2-piece bundle to a viewer named Katie. Katie, if you are watching, you're an angel. Thank you so much. And she bought both of these items for her honeymoon. And I was so excited to like be a part of that part of her life. I was just like honored. She purchased 1 romper and 1 jumpsuit. And when I went to ship, the jumpsuit was nowhere to be found. It was not in its inventory bag. There was another item in that inventory bag. Instead, I sold it at some point and just don't remember selling it. Probably what happened is I sold it in a whatnot show, I'm guessing. I don't even know. And so I had to message her and tell her, I am so sorry. I cannot find this jumpsuit. Obviously, if you want, we can just cancel the transaction, or I can just sell you the romper and I'll sell it to you for super cheap, you know, because I am the one in the wrong here. She was so gracious. She was so kind. And she was like, yeah, I'll just take the romper. So she got from me this Tula Rosa Rowley, I think that is the style name, floral embroidered keyhole front tie romper in a women's size extra small. This I got for $3.50 at a Goodwill in like the Chicago suburbs when I was there with my family for something. I don't even know what we were there for, but I had $3.50 into it. I sold it to her for $20. I had it listed much higher. This was actually really, really cute, but I've had it listed for a long time. And it's funny, like people either love rompers or they hate them, but it's one of those things that there's not a large percentage of the human population that is into them. So they're kind of hard to move, I have learned. And so my net profit was $12.50. And like I said, it probably took me a good like 2 to 3 years to move that item. But Katie got it. She said that it fit her really well and that she liked the items. Let me double check what she actually said. This is me like trying to remember. She said, I love this piece, many E's in love. So cute and it fits me well. Appreciated all the measurements shared. That's, you know, a sign from me to you. If you're not including measurements in your listings, do it. Shipped quickly and packaged thoughtfully. Can't wait to wear on our travels. Thank you, Becky. So again, she was so sweet and understanding and kind and gracious. Super appreciate her and hope that you have a wonderful honeymoon. Thank you so much. And then on the 9th of August, which was a Saturday, on Poshmark, I sold this pair of new with tags Wrangler men's 34x30 relaxed bootcut jeans. They had like flex stretch in them and they were blue, as most jeans are. These I sold for $21 on Poshmark. That was an offer that Posher VA sent out to watchers and someone accepted. And I didn't have any money into those because I got them from Reseller Supply Co. You guys have heard me talk about them on my channel a lot because I got to go visit their headquarters in Springfield, Illinois, and just kind of see how they're running their operation. They're great guys. They're offering, you know, wholesale boxes to resellers because they themselves are buying out these huge liquidation pallets and whatnot. They gave me a couple boxes to unbox on my channel so you guys could see what kind of stuff you could get from them. This was in there and they sold the day after I listed them. It took me a while to get them listed because there was like a big yellow tag on the jeans. They were new with tags, but there was a big yellow tag attached to the tags that said that there was a big flaw. And so I looked for the flaw. Essentially, it was like this stain on the front. It looked very surface level. So I took like a wet wipe and I just kind of wiped it and the stain went away. And so I noted in the description that there was a flaw sticker on the tag, but that I had taken care of that flaw. I was very upfront about, all of that stuff. And so, like I said, I got this in October of 2024. I didn't get around to listing it till August 8th. And then August 9th it sold. So silly of me to have taken so long to get that listed, but I did make a net profit of $16.80. So there you go. Also on the 9th on eBay, I sold this Old Navy pair of athletic taper built-in flex dark wash jeans in a men's 34 by 30. Those I got at a Plato's Closet 90% off clearance sale for $1.40. And like 90% off, fill a bag, like you're just paying so little for items, sometimes even less than you would pay at the bins. So I'm willing to try things that I typically wouldn't pick up. Old Navy denim is one of those things. Like that's not really where I want to put my energy, but at $1.40, I was like, sure, let's try it. I sold it as part of my 20% off sale for, how much did it sell for? Let me look it up. Hold on. Stories about it.
3 days later.
I sold those jeans for $16.54, and I don't think it took that long. I mean, it took definitely under 3 months, so not too bad, and that makes me want to consider Old Navy denim a little bit more. Also, on the 9th of eBay, I sold another pair of jeans. You guys, so many jeans sold this week, and I shared this in my last What Sold video, which I know was about, sales from the end of July, but like jeans have been selling like hotcakes. To be fair, I have also just been listing a lot of jeans, so there's probably a correlation there, but still, like jeans are selling. But this was a pair of silver Suki mid-slim bootcut jeans for women in a size 29 by 31. These I've had since 2022. That's when I sourced them, July of 2022. They sold for $20.79 as part of my 20% off sale. They were promoted and only took me 3 years to sell. So there you go. I had $3.99 into them and my net profit was $13.02. But silver is a brand that I don't pick up anymore for women. I do still pick it up for men. I think that it sells really well for men still. For women, I just have not had luck with this brand for years. So I don't know, unless, again, maybe I find it at like a Plato's Closet fill a bag sale or something. I've just been burned by this brand too many times. You can, what is the phrase? Fool me once, something's wrong with you. Like fool me once, something nice about me, but then fool me twice, I'm an idiot. I don't remember. I don't know how the phrase goes, but yeah, I'm cutting ties with silver. Also on the 9th on Poshmark, another pair of jeans sold. It was a pair of Levi's 501XX original fit button fly jeans in a mustard yellow. It was in a men's size 38 by 32. Those I got at the Plato's Closet fill a bag sale. I had 59 cents into them. They sold in 3 days and they took me a little bit to list because I got them home and noticed that there was a huge stain, just like the biggest stain I have ever dealt with. And by dealt with, I mean I gave to my husband and he took care of the stain for me because he does our laundry. He's better at it than I am. And he's very serious about it. He has a whole system. And I think he genuinely thinks that if I were to get in there and attempt to do laundry myself, that I would break something or I don't know. I don't know what he thinks would happen, but I don't do the laundry and that's why. But he got the stain out. 3 days later it sold and my net profit was $15.41. And I really genuinely thought to myself that I would have to sit on those for forever because they were mustard yellow, but someone wanted them and I gladly gave it to them. The next thing to sell on August 9th was on Poshmark as well, and it was this pair of childhood's clothing French terry dash dot steel blue retro shorts in a toddler size 5T. Those actually sold for $15, which, for like a size 5T used pair of shorts, that's pretty great. And that's only because of the brand. Again, the brand was Childhood's Clothing. I learned about this brand from Kathy over at Ginger Marvin. She would talk about it all the time. And I think she would get a lot of it for her own boys. I have actually purchased Childhood's Clothing from her for my own kids. And the quality is just really good. My son looks so cute in anything by Childhoods. They just make good clothes and they have like a cult following. I was pretty confident that I'd be able to, make decent money on these shorts, which is why I listed them instead of bringing them to my local consignment store. And I did. I made $12 on those. I did have them listed for a good number of months, but I was still pretty happy with that sale. And then the last sale from this week was over on Poshmark. It was on August 10th, which was a Sunday, and I sold this Active USA olive green long sweater cardigan with pockets in a women's size small. That I got last December, and it was at my local consignment store. They saw me come in, they saw me go to the sales section and shop. And this is the same consignment store that I shopped with, during COVID when they let me just in their storage unit. And I don't know, we just have a really good relationship. They saw me and they were like, hey, we're gonna pull more of our sales stuff and you can have first dibs at it, and we'll just do like a bag sale where you just pay for the entire bag that you fill. And I was like, great. And when they say bag, they're talking about like big garbage bags, not like little plastic bags. So I had $3.13 into everything that I picked up that day. This item sold for $18 on Poshmark, and my net profit was $11.27. So for this particular week on eBay, I sold 7 items for a gross sales amount of $161.26. I had $10.17 into those items, and so my net profit was $83. eBay was mad at me. Like, eBay was not throwing any sales my way, and really the only way that I got anything to move over there was by running that 20% off sale. And then on Poshmark, actually, I guess I did even worse on Poshmark. I only sold 6 items for a gross sales amount of $174. I had $9.72 into those items, and although I sold less, I made more money. I made $129.48 on Poshmark. So in total for this particular week, I sold 13 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $335.26. I had $19.89 into those items, and my net profit was $212.48. And at the end of this week, when I examined, any sales from the estate sale that I talked about, that I went to earlier in this May, I've been tracking all of my sales from that estate sale, and I'm just really curious to see how much money I can make from that initial like $600+ investment. I sold 2 items that I sourced at that estate sale this particular week for a net profit of $78.34, which brings my net profit from that estate sale thus far to $2,734.15. And then as far as how I'm doing for the year in net profit, I have made $11,587.28. So now let's move on to the next week. And this week was a lot better. And as I was doing my numbers for this week, that's when I realized, crap, I cannot do all of my August sales in one video, because then it would just be insanos. So we are gonna first take a little sip of my tea because I have been talking a lot. But we're gonna start by talking about August 12th, because on the 11th, again, I had 0 sales. I started the week off with 0 sales. And this was actually the week that I started school. So I believe we started like our institute days with just faculty on the 14th, but I met with my students on the 13th because we always have to sing for our opening day. It's a whole thing. So it was a really busy week, but thankfully I made a good number of sales. And I distinctly remember why. It's because I started listing 25 items a day because I knew that I needed to do something drastic to put some life back into my reselling business. And I was going to see how long I could do that for. And I think I made it like 4 days. And then school started and I was like, well, I'm out. Like, I'll be lucky to even get one thing listed. But it actually did help listing all that stuff. So we're going to start by talking about August 12th, which was a Tuesday. On Poshmark, I sold this Pendleton cream knit lamb's wool and nylon fisherman sweater in a men's size medium. I did put the word coastal in the listing title because it very much was, the type of thing that you could wear at like a lake house or something. That sold on Poshmark for $37, and I had $5 into it from the estate sale. I got it the first day, and it took about 3 months to sell, and my net profit was $24.60, which is really exciting. Also on the 12th on eBay, I sold this pair of new with tags Nike Dry Fit University of Illinois Fighting Illini training shorts in a size extra large. Those my husband got as a gift last year, at the end of last year, from one of his students. However, they gave him a size extra large, and he's not an extra large man. So he was like, I can't wear these. Do you want to try to sell them? And I was like, okay. I was very much expecting to sit on them for a very long time, but they actually sold for $15 in 8 days. They sold extremely quickly. And I did take an offer. I think I had them listed for like 25, but I was like, yeah, I just need to move these. Like, I don't want to pass down a somewhat decent offer and then sit on it for another 2 years and take the same offer or even less. So I took the offer. I didn't have any money into them, so my net profit was $12.22. And shorts are super easy to photograph and list, so that was a piece of cake. Also on the 12th on Poshmark, I sold this White House Black Market women's dress in a size 2. It was beige, it was sleeveless, it was textured, and it was neutral. And it was weird. It was weird in that I feel like I'm pretty good at looking at something, and if it's White House Black Market, I know right away. They just have a vibe, like it's the White House Black Market vibe. This one did not fit that vibe because there were some like kind of boho elements to it. And to me, White House Black Market has no boho in its DNA. So this one was so weird, but it sold in 2 days. It was something that I got at a local consignment store during their birthday sale. And so I had $1.95 into it, which I was really excited about. And it sold for $18 on Poshmark, leaving me with a net profit of $12.45. And that one, I think I only had it listed for like $25 just because, yeah, it was weird. Like it was not a typical White House Black Market type piece. It was in a smaller size and I didn't want to sit on it for forever. So I listed it somewhat low, definitely lower than I typically would for a White House Black Market dress, but it worked. I took an offer and I made my profit in 2 days. So that was really exciting. And then on the 13th, which was that a Wednesday? Yeah, that was a Wednesday. I started off the day with an eBay sale of another White House Black Market piece. Like, that's pretty unheard of. For me, White House Black Market, I don't really even pick it up that much anymore because while it does sell, it tends to sit forever for me. So this was super weird that I was able to move these 2 pieces back to back. But this one was a long sleeve smocked waist blue floral blouse in a women's size extra small. So another extra small piece. Although I will say I do feel like I tend to move a lot of smaller sizes in White House Black Market. Maybe women who wear extra small and small, like they just like White House Black Market and how they fit in their clothing. I don't know what it is, but I wouldn't say that small size pieces in White House Black Market is a deterrent the way that it would be for brands like J. Jill or, even Talbot's, like those, or like Coldwater Creek. I think for those brands, generally speaking, you got to go big or go home. So this one sold on eBay for $31.49. Okay, I'm like surprising myself. That's a lot. I had a 10% sale running, so I had it listed for $35 and it went down to $31.49. Someone snatched it up. It only took about a little under 4 months to sell. That one I got at that bag sale that I talked about at my favorite local consignment store at the end of last year, where they saw me walking and they're like, let us pull more clearance items for you. So I had $3.13 into that item and my net profit was $23.59. Also on the 18th on eBay, this was a great sale. I sold this pair of black leather Mary Jane shoes in a women's European size 36. You better believe I put the keywords dark academia in the listing title because these absolutely were. I could have also maybe put like Wednesday Addams or I don't know, like they just have kind of that vibe. Yeah, so I went with dark academia. There's a lot of other keywords that I could have used as well. I got these at a local thrift store that I really haven't gone to in a very long time. It's like a local thrift store. It's not a Goodwill. And I very much love how they serve the community that we're in, way more than Goodwill does. But for whatever reason, I just haven't gone out there in a while. But these sold for $58.49. They were promoted and they just sold as part of my 10% off sale. So I had them listed for $65, but 10% off plus the promoted fees. That's why it's saying that it sold for $58.49. I sold those in 3 days. I had $5.99 into them. So my net profit was $41.96. And that's one of the things I love about this thrift store too, is they price things really well. Some things they're kind of dumb about and they'll try to price up. They don't have like a boutique section, but there will be items that are randomly priced super high. This, they didn't know. They didn't know what it was, and that's why they priced it the way that they would price most of their shoes. Very happy with that sale. Fin Comfort, if you haven't put it on your BOLO list yet, make sure that you do. And then on the 14th of August, which was a Thursday, on eBay, I sold this pair of Lululemon ABC Classic Fit 5 pocket pants. They had like Utilitech technology. I don't know what you want to call it. And they were in the color green. I think it's supposed to say green jasper, but I definitely typed it out as Japser pants. And they were in a men's size 30. I got those, again, at the end of December last year at my favorite consignment store when they let me just fill bags with clearance items. And those sold for $40.49 because I had a 10% off sale running. It took 1 month to sell. I had $3.13 into them, and my net profit was $30.32. Lululemon is one of those brands that I do still get excited about, but it's like a cautious excitement because it doesn't sell as well as it used to. However, I have found that their like more career-oriented pieces do really well, whereas I do have a hard time moving their athletic pieces, like leggings and stuff like that. I don't know. They tend to sit for me. Also, I think when I find leggings by Lululemon, they tend to be older styles. But even still, I just feel like anything more career-oriented, those pieces sell for good money and they sell faster, in my opinion. Also on the 14th on Poshmark, I sold this J. Jill Love Linen 100% linen purple pop over tunic shirt in a women's size extra small. So this is an example of something that it checks a lot of boxes. You know, it's linen, it's J. Jill, but it's in an extra small, which is definitely something to consider when you're sourcing in terms of should you pick this item up or not. Because even if it has a lot going for it, if it's a brand like J. Jill or Coldwater Creek or some of these other more mature brands, there just are not as many people looking for those brands in an extra small. And as a result, this item took me 3 years to sell. And I only had $252 into it, again, from my favorite consignment store, the one where they give me like special bag prices. And I think that this was during one of their birthday sales. It sold for $23 and my net profit was $15.88. But again, it took 3 years, which is too many years. That's a lot of years. Next sale on the 14th of August on Poshmark was this pair of Adriana Goldschmied, the Everett Slim Straight jeans in a men's size 38 by 34. These I got at my favorite consignment store that I keep talking about, but at their birthday sale in May of this year, I had $379 into them. That was my average cost of goods for everything that I got that day. And they sold in 1 week for $20. So my net profit was $12.21. And that day, when I went to the birthday sale, there was like almost an entire rack of Adriana Goldschmied jeans for men. And it was not all from one man, unless this man went through a crazy body transformation, because they were in like all different sizes of waist and inseam. And so I don't know, I guess that's like what the men of my town are wearing. And then when they're done wearing those jeans, they bring them to this consignment store. I don't know why they had so many, but I got all of them. All of them. Because while Adriana Goldschmied doesn't sell for like a ton of money, when it comes to men's jeans, men, like, the styles don't change that much. Like, I feel like for women, it's so drastic, you know, like skinny jeans were in and now they're not. High-waisted stuff was in and now they're back to, you know, like, it changes so much. But like men's jeans generally have stayed the same. Yes, there are like slim fit jeans. Yes, now we're kind of in this wide leg jean phase, but especially for older men, like they're not gonna walk around in wide leg jeans. You know what I mean? So a jean is a jean, and if they like the brand and they like the styles, which, you know, Adriana Goldschmied, they put the style name on the inside of the jean, which is really great. It just makes it really easy to sell. So that was, I thought, a good flip. Even though they didn't sell for too much and I didn't make a huge profit, they sold quickly, and the fact that I could just flip these guys over and over again, love it. Also on the 14th on Poshmark, another pair of jeans. This was the Levi's 501S women's 28 by 28 button fly skinny, high-waisted, light wash jeans. These I only picked up because I got them as part of that fill a bag sale at Plato's Closet. I would not have picked them up otherwise if I had to pay any more than like $2 or $3, just because, again, skinny jeans are just harder to move in that they're not what's popular right now. And anyone who like wants skinny jeans probably already has enough pairs. But I picked these up because I knew I'd have so little into them. I had 59 cents into them. They sold on Poshmark for $21, which was pretty nice. Like, that was more than I was expecting to get for them. And my net profit was $16.21. And best of all, again, I listed those pretty low. I listed them for $25. I sent out offers using Posh or VA. And before the buyer accepted, she reached out and she was like, hey, can you tell me about like if there's stretch in these? Or I don't know. She had a couple questions about fit and stuff. And the sad thing is she messaged me after she received them and she was like, yeah, they didn't fit, but I just gave them to my sister because they fit her. So, thank you so much. Like everything is as you described, they just don't fit. I was sad that it didn't work out for her, but I was thankful that she was a good customer and a good person. Sometimes people will even go out of their way to create a flaw in the listing. Like they'll cut it or they'll put a hole in it or something, and they'll take a picture of that and be like, oh, this wasn't sold to me in the condition as described. There are lots of messed up people out there in the world, but she was great. Like she knew going in, okay, if it doesn't fit, I can't return it and I have to have a plan B, and she had one. So I was really thankful for that. They sold fast. It just didn't super work out for the buyer. But also on the 14th on eBay, I sold this lot of 2 J. Crew Factory short sleeve polo shirts in a men's size medium. I did put the word preppy in the listing title, and those I got from a friend of mine. He moved to the Chicago suburbs, I don't know, like 4 years ago. And when he moved, they were doing like a deep clean of their house, and he gave me some of his stuff and his wife's stuff to resell, and he just gave it to me to be nice. And he didn't give me that much. I had another male friend who did the same thing. They're actually really good friends with each other. Actually, he's probably the one that told this guy to just give me his stuff. Anyway, the other guy gave me like 10 garbage bags full of clothing. Like it was kind of ridiculous. This guy gave me like 1 bag. And he was like, I don't want anything for it. I just want it out of my house. So I got all that stuff for free. There wasn't a whole lot in there for me to resell. To be honest, a lot of it I just took to my local thrift store. And these 2 polo shirts from J. Crew Factory, I remember being like, I'm going to get like $5 for each of them. But I had the genius idea of lotting them up into a lot of 2 polos instead of trying to sell them individually. It's not like it did that much. They sold for $17.99. That was with a 10% sale that I had going. And so my net profit on those was $15.95. But that is something to do if you have multiples of something. Maybe you have multiples of like kids' t-shirts all in the same size, and you're like, I don't want to sell these individually. Like, I don't know that that's really worth my time. I have sold, lots of 10 long sleeve t-shirts in a size 2T before for like $50, which the $50 sounds like a lot. Yes, it doesn't sound like a lot for 10 shirts, but it still comes out to like $5 a shirt, which is way more than you're probably going to make at a garage sale, or if you take those things to a consignment store. So definitely something to consider if you have bulk of something. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that, but it did take me maybe like a year to sell that lot. So yeah. Also on the 14th on eBay, I sold this new with tags Halara, which is, I'm going to call it like a fast fashion athleisure line. It was this green scoop neck long sleeve sports top in a women's size 6. It did have a shelf bra on the inside of the shirt. And this is something that I got from a company called Bazaar. I don't know if they're still in business, but they are or were like a wholesale company for resellers. And they reached out to me and they said, hey, we want to send you a box for free that you can unbox on your channel. And you can be really honest about the unboxing, but we just want, other people to see our company and what we have to offer. I did the unboxing and I was not very impressed. I was pretty open about that in that video. And at the end of the video, I basically said I don't really recommend using Bazaar to source from as a reseller because I really felt like the profit margins were just too thin. Like it would be too easy to actually even lose money, with the prices that they were charging for their items. So while I got some free inventory out of it, it wasn't a relationship that continued, because they didn't have wonderful things to say about them. But I actually love this top, and I got a few in my box, I remember, and I got one in my size and I tried it on and I was like, oh, this is lovely. Like, I love this. So I actually own this in my size and love it. And it actually is very high quality. Yeah, but this took 3 years to sell. And when it sold for $17 and my net profit was $13.85. And if I hadn't gotten that box for free, I think it would have come out to like $8 a piece or something. Like it was just too much to actually make a profit. But it was a cute piece. It just took forever to sell. And then on the 15th of August, which was a Friday, on eBay, I sold this new with tags Vineyard Vines women's Tisbury floral square neck blouse top in a size 2X. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, you must have gotten that from the estate sale, but I did not. I got it at my favorite consignment store's birthday sale. They have 2 locations, so this was the other location later in the summer. I got this in July, and I had $1.95 into it. I sold it for $27.99. It was promoted at 3%, and I had a 20% off sale going on, and it sold in 1 week. So my net profit was $19.67. Also on the 15th on eBay, I sold this pair of new with tags Lee, which is not a brand that I pick up very often, but I got it at that same birthday sale. It was this pair of Flex to Go women's size 16 mid-rise relaxed fit cargo shorts in ink blue. Again, I had $1.95 into those. I sold them for $15.99 because they sold as part of my 20% off sale that I had going on eBay. They only took 5 days to sell, which was pretty great. And my net profit was $10.86. I just wanted to see, like if that brand would move, if I could sell it for a decent amount with them being new with tags. And it turns out they still sell for very little, even if they're new. And now we know, even if you're getting it for real cheap, probably not worth your time. Also on the 15th on Poshmark, I sold this Fry women's leather fringe saddle flap crossbody bag in a tan color. It had an adjustable strap. I put boho as a keyword because this was very boho. It was also very Western. I think I put that in the description. This sold for $55 on Poshmark. I think I had it listed for like maybe $75, but I took the $55 offer after going back and forth with someone, if I remember correctly. We countered a bit. I also got offers for this on Depop. I may have even accepted one of those offers, but as we know, an offer on Depop means absolutely nothing. So yeah, there was a lot of interest in this very quickly. I think the day that I listed it, I got like a $20 offer on Poshmark or something like that. But I did move it at $55. I had $12 into it from a local consignment store, and so my net profit on that was $32. This sold in 4 days. Now, I've had this in my world for a while. I think I got it last year, but it may have even been in 2023. But I got it, and I think I was planning on selling it in like a whatnot show, and I had it hanging on one of my garment racks. My mother-in-law came to visit, and she saw it, and she was like, oh, I love this. Like, this would be so perfect for when I move out to LA and da-da-da-da-da. And I don't know. I just, she's my mother-in-law. So, of course, I'm just going to give her things if she likes them. So I let her have it. But then she came to visit maybe like a few months ago, and she brought the bag back, and she was like, I don't use it. Like, it's not my style. I don't know what I was thinking when I took it in the first place. So she gave it back to me. And after contemplating if I should use it or not, I was like, it also is not really my style. So I listed it, and it sold so fast. It sold, like I said, in 4 days. So very exciting to have had that in my world for so long, but then have it still do well. That was great. Also on the 15th on Poshmark, I sold this pair of new with tags cool men's size 40 slacks shorts with an 8-inch inseam. They were in the color smoke gray, and I put words like outdoor and comfortable and durable in the listing title. Cool is such a short brand name that oftentimes I'm left at the end of the listing title with a lot of characters, and I can throw a lot of keywords in there. But those I had $12.80 into from a local store that I used to go to years ago to source cool pants and shorts, because they would have these crazy sales and I'd be able to get them for like $10, $12 sometimes. And at that time, when I would list said cool pants and shorts, I could sell the pants for like $70, $80 like that, and the shorts for like $50 to $60. But then I started noticing that they were taking longer and longer to sell, and that store was asking for more and more for said pants. And it was at about that time when it was getting harder to justify paying as much as they wanted for these pants, that's when they ended up shutting down anyway. So I have had these for a while, but the crazy thing is they were just sitting in a bin of mine in an inventory bag, and they had never been listed. So like I've probably had these for like a minimum of 4 years, because I used to go to this store before COVID, and I think they shut down during COVID or after COVID. I'm not really quite sure, but like it was pre-COVID that I would go to this store for these sales. So that's crazy that for that long they were in my possession. I just happened to go through this one bin, and I remember pulling out these shorts and being like, that's so weird. Like normally if I have new with tags cool shorts or pants, like even though they're not as popular as they used to be, I still would get attention on them, like I'd still get likes or offers and things like that. So I was like, I wonder like what's wrong with my listing? Did I list it too high? Like I should revisit this, only to find that they just weren't listed. So I listed them after many, many, many years, and they took 5 days to sell. So, but I only made $16 because like I said, they're just not selling for as much. So I did sell them for $36, $12.80 into them. 16 was my profit. I'll take it. Also on the 15th on Poshmark, oh, this was a great sale. This was my best sale of the 2 weeks. It was this new with tags Eileen Fisher velvet casis mandarin collar long shirt in a women's plus size 2X. I got this at the estate sale. I got it the very first day because I was like,
New with tags Eileen Fisher, you are coming home with me.
it sold on Poshmark for $120. I had it listed for $175 because there were some comps showing that it could go for that much. I chose, though, in that moment not to be greedy because I only had $5 into that item. So even after Poshmark's 20% fees and my cost of goods, I made a net profit of $91 on that. And it only took 3 months to sell. With it being a little bit more of an expensive piece, I fully expected to sit on that for a while, but I was so happy. Also on the 15th on Poshmark, I had another great sale. It was this David Meister, or is it Meester? I'm not quite sure. Blue pleated asymmetrical neckline belted dress in a women's size 12. This I have had for a while, and I've had it with like very little attention. Like people have not liked it. People have not carded it. Nobody has really cared about this dress. And then randomly it sold on Poshmark for $63. I had $5 into it from a local consignment store, but I got this in October of 2023. So I've had this for a while, but my net profit on it when someone did finally decide to purchase it was $45.40. And $63, I think that was an offer that I sent out to watchers using Posher VA. So that was really, really exciting. I was very happy about that. Also on the 15th on eBay, another really great sale. Like I remember this day being pretty friggin' amazing. I was really happy this particular day. I think this day alone, I ended up making like, $400 or $500 in sales. But on eBay, I sold this Beams Heart, which is like a Japanese brand, women's size medium utility jacket. It was green. It had button snap pockets. And like I said, it's a Japanese brand, which is why I put Japanese fashion in the listing title as well. This I got at a local Goodwill. And honestly, I have not gone to this Goodwill in probably over a year. And I don't know, I was just inspired to see what was going on in my local Goodwills. There are 2 kind of in my town. So I went to both probably in the span of like a couple days and was pleasantly surprised with some of the things that I found. This one I had $5.99 into because I don't think they knew the brand at all. And so I had $5.99 into this, but it sold for $59.99. That was part of a 20% off sale that I had running. And it did take 4 days to sell, but my net profit was $43.06. So that was very, very exciting. And then moving on to the 16th of August, which was a Saturday, on Poshmark, I had a woman like 2 items, and Posher VA sent offers to that woman for those 2 items. I have it set up on Posher VA where like 5 minutes after someone likes an item, they'll send them I think it's a 15% off discount. And this woman accepted both of those offers. So what I did was I reached out to her and I was like, hey, just so you know, you can actually save like $8 on shipping if we do this as a bundle, because then I can use one shipping label and I can send you both items, with that one shipping label as one transaction. Is that something that you want to do? If so, there are a few steps we have to take, but I can make that happen. She didn't respond. And obviously, if she didn't respond, I wasn't going to cancel those sales because I can't just like make her buy a bundle if she's not responsive on the other end. So I feel bad because she did waste a little bit of money when it comes to shipping, but also I was happy to move these items. The first one was this pair of Eileen Fisher blue organic cotton pull-on pants in a women's plus size 2X. I did put the word log and look in the listing title, and these obviously came from that estate sale. There was so much Eileen Fisher there. I think I said this, maybe I didn't, but that Eileen Fisher piece that I sold for $120, that also came from the estate sale. But this item sold for $42. I had it listed for $50. So it sold for $42 because of Posher VA. I had $250 into these because I got it on the half off day at the estate sale. And so my net profit on those was $31.10. And it only took me 3 months to sell those. The other thing that this person purchased from me was another pair of Eileen Fisher pants. These were pull-on jeggings, again in a plus size 2X. These sold for $25, and I had these priced a little bit lower than most of the other Eileen Fisher pieces that I sold because there was some pilling, like, in between the thighs. So again, I got these at the half off sale. I had $250 into them. I sold them for $25. My net profit was $17.50, and those took a little over 3 months to sell. Also on the 16th, I sold on Poshmark this pair of shoes, and when I tell you, I was so happy to move these. I mean, I've had these for maybe 5 years. Like, I've had these for so long. I don't know where I got them. I just know I've had them for so long, and how I know that is in my old house, one of the ways that I would photograph shoes, like back in the olden days of when I started reselling, well, the very first way that I would photograph shoes was in my living room, I remember, against the wall. And then I started photographing them on this futon that we had in the kids' playroom. I would just like place them on this gray futon because I thought it was a nice background. And these were on the futon, which is how I know that these are so old. Again, I'm thinking 5 years old. They have been relisted a billion times. I have dropped the price on them, especially over on eBay so many times. I'm not really good about dropping prices on Poshmark, to be honest with you. So these ended up selling for $22. I don't even remember. I have no recollection of picking these up. I don't know where I got them. I'm just saying I had $5 into them because shoes generally are a little bit more expensive. My net profit then is $12.60, but my God, they took so long to sell. And then on the 17th, which was a Sunday, I didn't sell anything the traditional way, but I did have a whatnot show. And this whatnot show, the majority of the stuff that I sold this day was stuff that I got at that local consignment store's birthday sale that I talked about. Everything was $1.95. So a lot of stuff that I got at that birthday sale, I got to resell on whatnot with the intention of, a starting bid of like $3. So I would at least make some change on each item. And it was really just like pieces that I was like, oh, this is cute. Like, I don't want it to end up at a landfill because if it's in their birthday sale, it's like on its way out of their store. You know what I mean? And I was like, I just want to move this to a good new home. And so a lot of those pieces from that whatnot show were from that sale. A lot of them were also pieces that I actually pulled out of my inventory, just pieces that I've had for forever that I just want to make my money back on because I'm done. Like, I need to get them out of my house. And then there were a handful of pieces from the estate sale that I talked about, especially from the stuff that I got when I bought everything that was left over once the estate sale was over. While there were still some really amazing pieces in that bulk buy, there were like so many new with tags Eileen Fisher pieces and like Woolx and stuff like that. There were also many flawed pieces. And so a few of those pieces that like had flaws but were still sellable and still like usable, like maybe someone could just work to get the flaws out or, whatever the situation. I just started those at like $1 just to, again, give them to someone who could use them, but like they weren't worth my time to resell. So that Whatnot show, the gross sales amount was $279.75. I had $188.34 into all of those items. And again, it's because I am calculating like how much I paid for some of these bad buys from a long time ago. And I was just trying to make my money back. So when I put it all together, it did come out to kind of a lot. So my net profit on that show was $91.41. But I call it a success because, again, I was getting rid of a lot of stuff that I just had listed for a long time. I was able to move some of these pieces that still had some life in them, but wasn't worth my time to list online. And then stuff that I bought with the intention of selling on Whatnot, knowing that I wasn't going to make a huge profit on those items. And furthermore, I got to hang out with you guys, which is always really fun. And I don't know, you guys are so supportive and awesome and amazing. And it's just wonderful to get to hang out with you guys in that way. And two of the items that I sold during that Whatnot show were from the estate sale. You know, I'm pretty sure they were Life is Good pieces, and they had like small stains or small holes or something like that. So that's everything that sold that week. It was a really good week. It was a really busy week. You know, it was a week of listing as many items as I could, but it was also a week of going back to school and just going back to teacher life. And it has been hard this time around. This is my 16th year of teaching, and it has been the most difficult in that my body just took so long to get used to that schedule. And the truth is, I'm actually still not even adjusted to it yet. And I just got so sick. Like my asthma just got so bad. And I think a lot of it has to do with my office and just the building itself. I just was not feeling well, but I don't know. I think it's going to be better now that it's not as hot as it has been. But yeah, the transition was pretty rough. Anyway, let's talk about my numbers for this week. So on eBay, I sold 9 items for a gross sales amount of $345.09. I had $22.14 into those items, and my net profit was $211.48. On Poshmark, I sold 12 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $482. I had $58.65 into those items, and so my net profit was $326.95 on Poshmark. I had a Whatnot show where I had $279.75 as my gross sales amount. I had $188.34 into those items. And so after fees and my cost of goods, my net profit from that Whatnot show was $91.41. So in total, I'm just going off of my eBay and Poshmark sales. I'm saying I sold 21 items, but I sold a lot more if you take into account the items that I sold during that Whatnot show. And my gross sales amount for the week was $1,106.84. I had $269.13 into those items. And so my net profit for the week was $629.84, which is really exciting. Like, that's where I would love to be all the time. Let me go over my estate sale numbers and my total for the week. So this particular week of sales, I sold 6 items from that estate sale for a net profit of $164.46. And so from that estate sale thus far, I have sold 141 items for a net profit of $2,898.61. And for the year, my net profit so far is $12,217.12. Whew, you guys, we got through this. If you are still here, you are a trooper. Thank you so much. You are a wonderful human being. I appreciate you watching all the way this far. And if you're like, but I still want to watch more, I will link my What Sold playlist here. You're crazy, but you can watch more here if you want. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.